Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far with lots of reaction to OpTic's first CDL matchup of the season up against the Subliners last night. Shotzzy's given some thoughts on the Rambo situation that went down last year just the other day, saying that Rambo really didn't deserve the hate that he got last season and implying that it could have worked out with Rambo if the situation with Dashy wasn't completely untenable. What does this mean going forward, especially when the OpTic seems to be looking good this season with the way eBeZy performed yesterday? And OpTic versus Seattle is a matchup which could be very important happening in just a few days' time. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, I wanted to mention on the challenger side, it's actually incredible how at this point in the season, the CDL has started. We don't know what's going on with challengers really still. We should have had some sort of announcement by now, even as Ant from the rotation says, trust me at colleague Daniel, so we know it's bad news coming, just tell us. The biggest criticism is just the shockingly bad communication 6 months apparently after he was told that you'd made really good progress. And that doesn't seem to be the case as it stands. Now Daniel's side does come out and say, appreciate everyone's patience on this. We've been working daily to stand up a new platform partner and finalize some open details. So we hope to include the info in yesterday's announcement. Couldn't get it all the way there. We're close. The time hasn't been ill spent. Hopefully share the full details soon. So, you know, it's frustrating, right? Because initially they said, oh, as soon as the game launches, like we'll have the announcement coming through. And it hasn't really happened. So we've got to wait and see for that one. But it's not exactly going to be positive news, is it, when it finally arrives for the challengers, guys? Now, I also have to mention this that Ethan Spencer put on Twitter yesterday. So last year, he asked ChatGPT who was going to win champs, and the question he asked them is as follows. You write the ending to the 2023 he did last year COD League Championship. Here are the teams. Pick 2 teams for the finals and then pick a winner, basically. So that's what he says. And well, last year it actually successfully predicted that Subliners would win and Toronto would come second, which is kind of an insane prediction to make at the start of last season, given the fact that, okay, we knew Toronto would be good, we knew New York had upside potential, but like New York were not considered to be a real champs contender last year right at the start of the year. So I don't know how ChatGPT got that one right. I guess it was just good luck, or maybe the AI overlords are here slightly quicker than we expected. So this year he asks it again, and I don't know if it like knows who's good and who's bad, but it's predicted FaZe and OpTic in the finals, with FaZe taking the victory, and like obviously it goes pretty crazy on exactly how they're going to accomplish it. But I mean, this would be pretty insane if it goes back to back, and it's not out of the question because Ethan gave it all the teams: Carolina Ravens, Miami Heretics. It could have chosen anyone, but no, it chose OpTic and FaZe. It must kind of know that those are the big teams. It must have looked it up somehow, but still. We'll come back to that maybe in about 8 months' time. So there was lots of reaction yesterday to the OpTic versus Subliners series. Of course, OpTic did well, I think, to bring it back in the series, and on paper this should still be a nasty team. But the way they went down, classic mistakes really that OpTic tend to make, overextending, even Pred doing it right. I don't think we saw that many mistakes from Pred last season, really, in situations like that. Maybe it's just because there's more scrutiny when he's on OpTic, but, you know, a couple of plays that Pred made, suboptimal, and they led to the round 11 defeat in both maps. Okay, well, the first map wasn't really his fault or anything, but the second map, well, the last map of the series on the map 5 Search and Destroy, was Pred, Shotzzy. They made some mistakes. We've seen it before, and well, will it change around? Of course, that's been the talk about the coaching staff and everything going on there at OpTic, whether they could potentially get better in those situations. Of course, it is very much early days in the moment, and there was also some, shall we say, interesting spawns here on the terminal, as actually Beans pointed out. So look at this situation here. We've got, you know, OpTic have control of the points. Sure, 6 is at the back here, but you'd think that probably the Subliners guy should spawn out bottom Eskies. Maybe it's not like number 1 has a sight lane on that if they were to spawn like over here somewhere, even all the way in the back possibly. But no, they decide to spawn right underneath, kind of, you know, right underneath the plane really. So, because 7 spawns in the back, which I guess is justified maybe, and then 5 and like 8 spawning here, it's definitely interesting. I'm not sure OpTic expected that one, but this is how the spawns go. And to be fair, like, I don't mind if the spawns are close. It's just, there's just too much of a discrepancy on these maps right now, where sometimes the spawns are really close to the points, and sometimes they're miles away. Especially on this map, we saw it the other day. The teams will get used to it, they'll read it, and then of course the rumour is that in a few days' time they're going to massively overhaul the spawn system anyway, so we're going to play a completely different game. So Kenny wasn't happy about it, of course we saw that yesterday, MVP of the series from OpTic as far as I'm concerned, no real responses from the other guys. Will also be said from GodRx as well, as he says that he's playing today actually, I think, well, we'll see the matches in a few minutes time here of course, on the Carolina Royal Ravens. Now he was on Minnesota Rocker back at the start of the CDL, you guys probably remember, but it's very much the case that the game plays much better without snaking, and it's crazy really how, for the last several years, last year Modern Warfare 2, Hotel Control, you used to get 3 or 4 guys snaking the headies in that room where the control point was. And then you'd have some guy around the corner stair glitching, the stairs. It's like, why were we playing that game when the pros are seemingly perfectly capable of deciding between themselves not to do so? Will this last? I don't know, but at least it lasted for day 1. The pros are now not doing the snaking. The game is much better to watch. Burger Town's hard enough to break anyway. Someone's snaking that heady 50 million times. Good luck, But Shotzzy went into quite some detail just the other day on a couple of interesting topics. He talked about HyDra as well. There was a clip where he mentions HyDra's movement. Shotzzy and HyDra in many ways are very different players. At least what their roles are on their respective teams are very different. They could have been teammates, let's not forget, right? HyDra and Shotzzy were going to maybe duo up on OpTic. It was 95% done going into Modern Warfare 2. Never happened, of course. They went down a different route in the end because they decided to run it back with their original roster, so they could have played together. Shotzzy really is the player there to enable Pred on that team, and HyDra is kind of the guy being enabled in a sense. So, I wouldn't compare them too much, but still they're arguably top 3, top 5 SMGs in the league when they're on point. So he gives some thoughts on HyDra's movement, because I think the HyDra's movement gets somewhat overlooked. He always just seems to make the right play, HyDra, when you watch this guy. And sure, his stats from last night's series didn't actually look incredible, but when you watch his playstyle, I just think that it makes so much sense. But Shotzzy also comments on the Rambo situation. If you guys are unfamiliar with this, right at the start of last season, Rambo, Dashy had a big blow up behind the scenes at OpTic, and Rambo was effectively forced out. Well, Dashy was dropped, then he was brought back, and Dashy wasn't happy with the way Rambo was handling things behind the scenes, the whole bowling story, and Shotzzy says, look, people took that out of proportion, they took it one step too far, but at the end of the day, it's not like the community came up with the idea. Dashy was the one that spoke out about it initially. Well, really what it was is that Rambo went on that OpTic podcast with the OpTic guys after they dropped Dashy and gave reasons as to why. Dashy wasn't happy about it. He then claps back. Rambo doesn't really, he could have clapped back again, Rambo. He decided not to, and he was then quietly shuffled out the door of OpTic, really, while they went the other way. Shotzzy implies that he would have defended Rambo and would have said, look, he didn't deserve this situation. It still could have worked with Rambo as our coach last season, but it was a bit problematic because Dashy was still on the team.
You think HyDra possibly can match your movement? He is definitely the best 100%. The way he moves, the way he uses it in gunfights is really good. Me and him are just different players though. He just could do whatever he wants on his team, and I'm more making sure we win. Obviously he's making sure he wins, obviously, but his role is just completely different than mine. I felt like Ray got a lot of hate, bro. In the whole shit with him and Brandon, the whole beef shit, that was just that shit was so blown out of proportion. I feel bad for Ray, what he had to go through. Bro, y'all are so dude. The whole bowling shit. Oh my god, Jesus, dude. Y'all are actually so. Whether I understand that it was funny to you guys, right? But people are human, right? And I don't think you understand what Ray went through, right? Ray, the fact that Ray didn't say a single word and try to defend it. Did he defend himself? At least I don't think he did. But I do feel bad for Ray. It was Brandon that started it. Okay, no, listen, him and Brandon, that's their beef, right? But the fact that y'all went on and jumped on this shit, it's so dude. Bro, wait till you're defending, bro. You have to understand that whole situation was just awkward, bro. I could sit there and defend Ray, but I have Brandon on my team. It was such an awkward, it was so awkward, bro. I don't think you understand. It was just so weird. I don't know, You know what I'm saying?
So this was the bowling saga, right? Chalking scrims to attend his bowling league. This guy's dipping work. This guy's leaving his job. Classic moment. It was early January last year. This all started to come out. And as I say, Rambo was then kind of forced out of the coaching role. He then did content for a bit. And then eventually they just decided, all right, let's just part ways and stick with Dashy. But of course, that's been the question. Dashy clashed with Rambo last year, clashed with Ghosty last year. And now the point is, well, all right, Dashy's got to show up big time this season or there's going to be questions asked. So I think from Shotzzy's point of view, he was with Rambo back on the Dallas Empire days. They had success together, so I'm sure he realizes, respects Rambo and what he's done for his teams in the past. But the way the drama was between those two individuals, it was clearly an untenable situation to retain it as it was. And, were they going to choose Dashy or Rambo? They were going to choose Dashy, and it kind of is what it is. I guess the question for me is that going into this season, the issues that OpTic have had for the last couple of years, these issues like, clutching up in these moments, throwing away live, stuff like this. The first series they played, there was a good few examples you could point to in yesterday's series. And sure, first matchup, there's going to be some jitters, maybe some nerves, stuff like this. But, Shotzzy, Pred, dying unnecessarily, maybe communication in the key moments wasn't great. Whereas a team like the Subliners, reigning world champions, they're going to be better in those scenarios. Okay, I'm not saying something that's necessarily that Rambo would dial down into, but with Rambo gone and Karma in and obviously JP there, it's a problem they've got to resolve. Or they're going to get more moments like this again. I mean, this is just a screenshot from after they lose the round 11 yesterday. They probably should have won the round 10. They definitely should have won the round 1 as well, when they had a 2 versus 1 situation. Shotzzy just flew out mid for some reason, could have just planted the bomb, and then Kismet clutches the 1v2. So, a couple of scenarios that haven't gone OpTic's way so far. So, I still think this OpTic team is going to be really good, but as it stands, there are definitely some things to look at. Now, especially when you've got the OpTic curse is cooking up quite nicely in the background. Yesterday, eaBeZy, of course, dropped from this team not that long ago, had a monster series, one of his best ever. His best ever series is probably Major 1 Grand Finals at Vanguard season, just because, they won that and eaBeZy played really well on that entire championship Sunday. And he also won the World Championship back in 2020. He played very well for Dallas Empire at the time. But yesterday, eaBeZy was different level. And this is, if you guys can just about see, Friday, December the 15th. So just to have a look at the matches, these are today's ones. We'll see that in a second. OpTic then play Rocker on the Sunday night. Okay, it's Monday morning my time, but they play Rocker on this Sunday. And then the very first Friday back, they play Surge. So let's say OpTic beat Rocker or whatever, they'll be 1-1. Beating Surge is a pretty big deal because you need to get 4 wins really in these qualifier games. There's 7 qualifiers from now until January. So you need to win 4 to get guaranteed to winners. 3 is you might not make it, you might, but you might not. 4 will guarantee it. So if you start 1-1, then you play Surge, or even if you start 0-2, then you play Surge. That's a very important game to win, and of course it's against eaBeZy, but it's also against Rambo, right? I mean, it's eaBeZy over there, there's Hook over there, there's Rambo over there. I'm sure there's very much going to be an intention from their side to, get revenge or whatever you want to say. And eaBeZy 7-3 in his last 10 matches played in the 2023 calendar, but hasn't played a match since February the 2nd, or at least hasn't played a series victory since February the 2nd, which is what he won last night with a kind of ridiculous 1.72 KD. So there's lots of interesting matches like this coming up, actually. And also, I thought this is interesting from Jake Hale, that there will be the 1000th Call of Duty League match this year on February the 23rd, next season it seems, between Minnesota Rocker and OpTic Texas, which is like the SAE derby of what happened last season right at the start of the year with the SAE drama or that LSELO control. So, yeah, these interesting games coming out for OpTic for sure. But let's talk about the matchups for today. So 4 matches tonight. The best one is probably being saved here to last, I will say. But every match is interesting at this point in the season. So Ravens versus Heretics is first up. These were 2 teams that were scrimming literally like day 1 of when the game launched. So I'm looking forward to this. I think the Ravens should have the slight edge, but we'll see how good Heretics are at the moment. Then Vegas versus Rocker. Rocker again should be slight favourites here. They've been kind of like a top 8 team. Legion have looked like a top 11 team apparently in practice, but who knows what's going to happen in an actual match situation. I will lean Rocker's way though. Then Ultra Gorillas. This is going to be interesting to see if it's as emphatic as we expect, because I think many expected FaZe to really wipe the floor with Boston yesterday. That didn't happen. Boston played very well and arguably should have won the series. Gorillas are considered to be not so good. The coaches had them almost unanimously as 12th best team in the league, and Ultra almost unanimously as the 2nd best team. So we'll see if we get a comfortable series victory for Ultra, or whether, because it's early days, we're just going to see lots of Game 5s. And then Surge Boston's very interesting, because Surge played really well yesterday in the hands of eaBeZy, but outside of that, if eaBeZy doesn't drop crazy numbers, do they play as well? Boston, can they get, because if Boston start 0-2, that's a bit of a rough start for their home major. So they kind of need to win this series, Boston. But I think I would give Surge, should be probably slightly favourites in this series, based on what happened yesterday. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.